A 35-gram Amanita Muscaria trip report, posted by Eversonic to the Amanita Muscaria subreddit 22 days ago. This took place around November 2021, I believe, so some details may be a little fuzzy, but I do remember most things about it. It was around 8:30 PM one night, and I wanted to use some form of psychoactive substance, but wasn't sure what to choose from my stash. I had a bunch of amanitas that I'd dried earlier in the week, Muscaria var persichinea, which I'd found locally near my house, and it had been a while since I'd last done any. I decided I was going to try a higher end dose and see what would happen. I scaled out about 35 grams of different size caps. I recommend doing this because caps can vary heavily in concentration despite the sizes, so it's good to use different size caps. I then added the amount, already dried, to some water mixed with lemon juice on the stove, because ibotenic acid converts into muscimol more readily in the presence of an acidic pH. I heated the water until it was boiling, and then turned it down until it was a light simmer. I let it simmer for about an hour, until I ended up with a super concentrated tea. It's important to simmer for a long time, because the heat is important in full conversion, along with the citric acid, of course. I went up to my room and drank the tea. Muscaria tea has a horrible taste. It's like a mixture between wet old socks, rotten tomatoes and cardboard. By far one of the worst tasting entheogens out there. After getting through the tea, I kinda just hung out watching videos until I started noticing its effects. At first, the effects were subtle. Mild drunkenness, but not quite like alcohol or other gabergics like Z-drugs and benzos. It feels more unique. My vision started getting very blurry, and I felt a little bit nauseous. I was also sweating and salivating a lot because of the muscarine that's in Muscaria. The effects slowly started increasing along with the side effects, and I noticed that my room was starting to become unrecognisable and looked very distant. My surroundings felt fake, and the weird visuals starting to overlay my vision seemed more real than my life had ever been. The visuals I was experiencing were very salvia-esque. Out of everything I've ever tried, nothing has ever really come close to the effects of salvia, except amanitas. The effects are extremely similar, but Muscaria is a little different in some ways that I can't really depict easily. My vision almost looked like there was a vignette forming around it. It was grey coloured, and it made it even harder to see and recognise my surroundings. I started seeing various colours folding and twisting in ways very similar to salvia. I also had a similar body height to salvia, and it felt like my body was segments and they were kind of moving slightly, twisting and folding, stretching back out. This feeling was pretty dysphoric, but I remember being so out of it that I didn't even really care at the time. It was around this time during the trip when the nausea kind of took hold over me, and I ended up purging. Amanita Muscaria is extremely nauseating in high doses. I've done ayahuasca without purging, except for in high doses, so I wasn't expecting to feel this sick from amanitas. After throwing up, I felt much better, but still had that dysphoric body high. Eventually, I ended up closing my eyes to see if there was any closed-eye visuals to experience. At first, there weren't really any. After a minute or two, I started to see something that appeared to be unravelling or unfolding in, again, a very salvia-esque way. It, paired with the unfolding and unravelling body high that I was experiencing, and pretty soon I became the object that was unravelling with my eyes closed. At this point, I had zero awareness of who I was before taking the amanitas. Complete ego dissolution. I had always been this thing that was unravelling, and I always would be. This thought was anxiety-inducing at first, because I thought I was going to be stuck like this forever. But eventually, I calmed down after accepting my fate. I don't quite know how to describe this, but I was witnessing this from two different perspectives. I was the thing that was unravelling, but at the same time, I was watching it happen from a third-person view from the outside. I was unravelling vertically, and I started to notice various colours the more this went on. Greens, blues, whites, browns, yellows, etc. After what seemed like an eternity, I reached the bottom of the space that I was in while unfolding constantly, and the process immediately started again, but horizontally this time. Same colours, same feelings, etc. This happened for what felt like several lifetimes, until I finally realised what was taking place. I was becoming the Earth. I was watching the Earth itself being created. I realised this because I was unfolding into a sphere shape, and the colours resembled the colours of the Earth. I started to see continents being formed, water, clouds. I was completely amazed by what I was experiencing. After the Earth was formed, this is kind of where I blacked out. I wish that more happened, because becoming the Earth was absolutely insane. But I have no memory of what happened after this. I blacked out and woke up in the morning. At first, I was shocked to be back in my own body, because I'd completely forgotten that I'd even existed. But I quickly adjusted back to being normal again after a bit. I felt extremely refreshed. I was calm and energised for the entire day after the experience. Would I personally recommend trying a dose this high? Absolutely not. This might potentially not be safe. I'm really recommending not to try this. However, for me, the experience was one of the most profound hallucinogenic experiences I've ever been through. I would say it was worth it for me, even though I didn't really gain anything insightful as a result of it. However, it's definitely something that I look back on quite fondly.